Welcome back, everyone. This is the American Analyst, and today we are going to be going over the top news. So thank you for joining me. If you like what I do, please be sure to subscribe to me here on YouTube and follow me on Twitter and Minds. Now, let's get into it. Okay, so today's top stories. Perhaps a new segment here. We'll see how it goes. The big one, obviously, was the president's, or I should say acquittal, rather, by the Senate. So the president has been cleared of, or perhaps I was going to say he has been cleared of all wrongdoing, but that may not be strictly true. He has been acquitted of the high crimes and misdemeanors to which he has been accused. So we'll see what happens in the impeachment process, or I should say, we'll see if the Democrats try to repeat this process in the coming days and weeks. My suspicion is that they 100% will. They are going to 100% try to find something else before the election happens. I believe that. I don't know for certain. I have seen several Democratic Congress people say that, this is not over. There's no limit on how many times a president can be impeached, which is certainly true. So they could impeach as many times as they want. We'll see what happens. The bigger story, or I shouldn't say that, a side story, which you can see on your screen here, is that the single Republican defection was by a former Republican, almost said Democratic, a former Republican presidential candidate, Mitt Romney. He was the one defection. And the reason that I brought this up is I'm a bit torn. I don't know. I don't want to ascribe to him any ill will. But at the same time, it does seem to me that it was kind of a personal dig against Donald Trump, because he had it kind of ruined the quote unquote narrative. Yeah, there were no defections in the House. That's true. And there was one. So it puts a blemish on the so-called record. So certainly, I think that was the motivation. But again, I don't want to. I have seen people that saying no, he's always just been like this. He just firmly believes, which it'll depend what side of the spectrum you go on. I don't think the president did anything worthy of impeachment, or I should say of removal. But I do think that there's a case to be made. But I don't think it's a legitimate case. But there is a case to be made, and I've heard people say that Romney's just always been like this. I don't think so. I don't think so. I think this was personal, is what it comes down to. I really don't think it's political. I think that I think Romney knows that he's kind of relegated to the Republican B team. I think he had his shot in 2012. He lost. And so this is him being like, you know what? If I'm going to be on the B team, I can kind of do whatever I want. So, take that for what it is. This article, I'm actually not going to go through the whole article. It's from The Atlantic, and I did a little bit of research on what exactly The Atlantic was, because I couldn't tell from this article if they were a news source or an opinion source. What's very interesting about this is that they began in 1847, so a 150-year-old publication. I was very surprised to learn that, but it does seem to be an opinion piece, or an opinion, rather, I guess, publication. But they kind of try to, at least in this article, they try to blur the line a little bit. The one thing I wanted to point out was this particular sentence. Here it is. So he is the author here. He is discussing the impeachment, and they are talking about how this author believes that the Republicans don't actually believe the things that they are saying. And I'll say more about that in a second. Let me just read. Maybe they will see, if only for a few fleeting seconds, that they allowed their, in italics, partisanship to overwhelm their sense of decency, that they sought to destroy the reputation of a man of enormous personal integrity to further their political aims. Firstly, the best thing to point out is none of the mainstream media was talking about this 5 seconds. This morning, nobody was. Nobody's going out of their way to defend Mitt Romney, and which for obvious reasons. I mean, you can have your opinions. I certainly have mine, but this right here, this one word, was why I wanted to include this article, because it's a tacit, it's an implied admission of partisanship, because you're saying, no, not our, you see, not our partisanship, yours, which is the crux of this article. He's saying that, yes, we're partisan, but you're more so. you're more partisan than we are. And I don't think that's true. I think they're both equally partisan, which is an excellent segue into my next and final segment of the day. So you may have heard the big news from last night's State of the Union address, which was the tearing up of the copy of the State of the Union address. And I want to say a couple things first about this. Firstly, the State of the Union is, I don't think we should do it anymore in the way that it is being done now. This is not my idea. I want to put that out there, but I heard it and I was like, yes. So historically, the State of the Union, it is in the Constitution that every single year the president has to update the Congress, so both the House and the Senate, about what exactly his thoughts are, or his or her thoughts are on the current state of the nation. So he does have to do that every year, but it does not have to be this speech. That was never prescribed, and in fact, I don't know the exact year, but I believe it was sometime in the 20th century. So we had been doing the State of the Union for around 100 years before it was an actual speech delivered in Congress. Most of the time, it was a letter. Literally just, he wrote down what he thought, passed it along. That's it. And I think we should go back to that. Maybe not even permanently, but we need to just chill out for a few years. Just for, and not just this, just more in general as well. We need to chill out. I think it should just be a letter. That's it. Like, hey, here's what it is. Send it to all the newspapers too. Like, let people know, because I think that's important. I think that's why it was included originally, because it is important for both the Congress and the people to know the president's thoughts. So I think that's why it was included. I think it's important, but the way that it's going now, it's becoming a show. It's a reality TV show at this point. It's insanity. So, which brings me to, does anyone think that this is okay? And so we're going to try something new on the channel. This is back from 2009. You may remember this. This is September 9th, 2009. So this would be Obama's first State of the Union. Let's go ahead and take a listen.
The reforms I'm proposing would not apply to those who are here illegally. It's not true.
If you couldn't hear that, that was the famous State of the Union for President Obama when one GOP senator, or I think it was a congressman actually, yelled, "You lie," at him. This top comment right here. Biden and Pelosi's face when he yells that. pure shock and fear. And that kind of looks like disappointment. And he does an excellent job of brushing it off because it's not the time and place. I'm going to give him credit on that one. Which then brings me to last night.
God bless you, and God bless America. Thank you very much.
I'll throw some credit to Pence on that one for the same reason I did to Obama. Just keeping it cool. I don't know if the Donald even noticed. I'm sure he found out extraordinarily rapidly, but I don't know if he even noticed. The look on Nancy Pelosi's face has been amazing. It seems like just pure vitriol. And the reason I brought up both of those is to go back to what I said about partisanship. It's both. It is both sides. The partisanship is insane on both sides. Does anyone think that either of these clips is appropriate in any way? Which is just both of these should be submitted. Exhibit A. We need to cut this out. This has to be it for at least a few years. At least a few years of just chilling out. This is just political theater. It's totally meaningless. Just send us a letter. It can do exactly what you need it to do. Tell people what you think. All right. Well, that's all I have for today. Thank you all for joining me. I am Mike. I am the American Analyst, and I will talk to you all tomorrow. Have a good one. Thank you all for listening. This is Mike, the American Analyst. Follow me on Twitter, Minds, and subscribe to me on YouTube. And be sure to hit that bell notification. I'll be coming out with new videos every single day for your viewing enjoyment. Have a good one.